Welcome back again. You're still watching us here on The Breakfast Show. On our first episode, as we said earlier, we're going to be talking about the rise of the dollar currency against the Egyptian pounds, the effects and the causes, who controls it, what's going to happen to the Egyptian economy if this rise continues, and all the issues and the inquiries and questions that raise around the dollar and the story of the dollar. That's not only affecting Egypt, by the way, it's affecting the whole world. In Egypt, we're going to also talk about why when there's an increase in the dollar, everything along the line of economy increases. Is that true? Is that positive? Should that be or not? Many questions. Very much delighted to have joining us here in the studio to shed more light on that issue. Our dear guest, Dr. Fouad Shaker. He's a former Secretary General of the Union Arab Banks, and he's also the member of the Economic Egyptian Council. Thank you, Doctor, for joining us.
Thank you very much for receiving me.
Good morning, Dr. Shaker, and it's a pleasure to have you with us. Dr. Shaker, how do you justify the increase in the dollar value versus the Egyptian pounds, which is creating some alarming bells for many people here in Egypt, especially the investors, the businessmen, and even the regular person in the street?
Really, for the professionals, it was expected. Since we are managing the foreign currency, I mean the dollar proceeds here in a way is not the way it's supposed to be. The problem of foreign currency here is not just a new one. It's back to the time when he decided to make the put into implementation high rates of subsidies for oil. This, of course, creates some problems for the Egyptian economy, because having two prices for the same commodity, led to what we might call distortion of the economy. Having the oil consumption in a rate which is much less than the international rates, of course, misuse for the foreign currency resources represented in oil. They move the problem of the foreign currency to be in a large amount government deficit. The government deficit in 2010 reached 1 trillion. Most of it because of this kind of subsidy.
Yes.
Especially on the oil prices. Supposed to be, after that, some sort of moving the subsidy policy and turn to have this kind of proceeds from the consumption market.
Yes, talking about subsidies, I want to mention at a very early point in our conversation the role of the central bank. There have been so many analysts I spoke to, and they were telling me about how the central bank is really, excuse me, backing and supporting very much
this is a very
U.S. currency.
question.
Because if we're going to talk about on the real ground today, the pound against the dollar is not less than 10, if not more. So. Is this gradual increase preparation, psychological preparation for the people, economic preparation for the businessmen and the companies that we will be witnessing a 10 pound, against the dollar
You couldn't say a 10 pounds or more because the near future, I'm expecting it to be stable for more than 6 or 7 months, because it's not feasible for anyone working in the arena to have this kind of drastic change in the dollar prices against the Egyptian pound. This is because we are not ready to fall into indexation. Indexation system, I mean hyperinflation, increase, and then like what happened in Turkey, what happened in Chile, and some other countries, or Lebanon during the wartime. This, of course, is not feasible for Egypt because we couldn't tolerate such kind of behavior.
So the burden on the central bank when it comes to how does it work?
Let me explain to you the role of the central bank here, Yasmin. The role of the central bank in foreign currency, this is very limited role. It's just collect the proceeds and then manage the expenditure in agreement with the other entities of the country. Let us say that if any administrative unit asks for a deal or some kind of purchases approved, import needed, required soon, like what happened with the Ministry of Supply, 2 or 3 billions right away. This will disturb everything for the governor. Already the governor is, as you say, is independent. Let us explain the meaning of independence. It's independence within the government. He can say no, but he couldn't say no forever. Just say no and then raise the issue to the parliament if there is a parliament, or to the final authority that represent people. And in such case, whenever there is approval for either the government or government needs or the governor of central bank requirement, it should be implemented. This is the country needs. And this is maybe the reason for the resignation and I don't call the of Fouad, I mean Hisham. It's early morning. Hisham Rami's, because all of a sudden the government needs became more than the proceeds that already collected.
Yes.
This, of course, and also the interference of the security forces and all these make a delay in the foreign trade movement that leads to the situation that all of us know.
Dr. Shaker, from your point of view, what measures should be taken now in order to...
4 measures.
Yes, which are... What measures should be taken in order to face this
problem?
Yes.
Let's first of all agree that the problem is not in the foreign currency itself. It's not in the central bank. It is on the other side of the economy, in the real economy. If you have a coin, there is 2 sides of the economy. One is the real economy. This is a monetary economy. And both should be equal. The problem here is the investment, is the increase in GNP. Remember what happened in the revolution. 4,000 of almost industrial project, huge industrial projects now stopped. They are not working. This is the decrease. And GNP, part of it should be directed to exports. So less exports, especially in the agriculture sector. Agriculture sector is a problem. It's a big problem in Egypt. And this is raised a big issue. Is it proper to ask for 1.5 new million reclaimed land, or try to reform cultivated area now.
Yes, I'm sorry to interrupt you there.
Second, there is second things that we have to do. Increase the efficiency of the capital formation here in Egypt. The public sector companies here is not producing
mass productions
with the maximum amount they can. They could. It's less than the. I mean, there is marginal efficiency of capital.
Yes. To sort of brief what you're trying to say here, do you mean that importing more than exporting, or importing goods that can be already produced in Egypt as mass production locally does contribute to the uncontrollable rises of the dollar?
I'm against to the justification that I am listening to from people, non-professional people, that we are importing luxurious commodities like...
No, it was unwanted.
Unwanted.
Unwanted goods. I mean, how can you scale that? Who
can determine if this
I don't know.
Let me ask you a question. You say wanted and unwanted imported goods. Who can say?
I don't know.
Who can? As long as there is a demand, it's wanted. This is what we...
But sir, some people are saying that some commodities are not necessary. They are luxurious commodities. They are not needed nowadays to spend our foreign currency.
Like what? Again, they didn't mention that scale.
Some kind of chocolates or cigarettes.
Who said that?
Certain people who are talking.
And the problem is,
everybody's talking about
yes,
that.
But the thing is that they're talking about
for it and export it for themselves. Said it?
Of course not.
No, and the thing is again, they're talking about what, a 2% product. Who's going to buy those special chocolates and cigarettes unless very, very thin sector of the society?
This is some sort of justification which make it as a total. We should be back to the figures itself. The component of our exports, 90% of it for food stuff and material for the industrial project, raw material for it. So sometimes I feel that people are lying. It's not a good way. It used before in the 60s to justify this kind of
I'm sorry to interrupt you
interference.
again, doctor, because I'll tell you why. And I'm sorry to take this question to Mahisti, because here in Egypt, I don't know if it's bureaucracy, if it's corruption, if it's all of them together. We are the only country that have this kind of problem. I mean, there is no problem with importing goods, wanted or not wanted. There's no problem with not having too much exports. There are countries in there that export anything at all. But you have countries like Saudi Arabia, for instance, and Jordan, who's, importing everything, basically. Maybe Saudi Arabia just exports oil. And the dollar has been stable since before I was born.
Look to Singapore. 100% of their product based on export from abroad. And then added value inside. And Singapore, the imports 360 billion US dollar.
Yes, so it's not an excuse.
The imports, I mean, and the exports add 40 million.
Wow.
To be 400 billion. Then the value added inside. This is the important. Manpower, how we utilize our resources. This is the problem here. In Egypt, it's much lower than any other country. Let us say that the rating of Egypt for investment is 131 among 144. What does it mean? Simply, it means that we are producing with a less efficiency.
Yes.
Due to people are not well trained, Other things, important things like the bureaucracy, which is simplify the word of corruption. Add to this words more than what I can say. Okay.
Sir, to what extent we could move as a government now in order to stabilize the market?
Increase exports, and this is very easy if we put our efforts, gather our efforts for
but
these
unfortunately,
sectors.
we are depending mainly on the imports, sir. Our amount of export is not high enough.
Exactly.
Yes, so
Exactly. That's why I say we should produce more.
indeed.
The productivity of the worker in Egypt is the least in the world, and the productivity means the amount you produce.
Yes, but that is again something that
we faced it now
because
with the
I'll
with
tell you why,
investors.
because people, manpower here in Egypt, they're very hardworking. If they want to do something, they can do it.
They can.
Yes, they can. Yes, they can.
But
they don't. Then they have a problem that needs to be solved. They have demands that need to be fulfilled. They have rights that they need to take. You can't expect someone to give you the maximum if you're not giving them the minimum of what they deserve.
Of course.
I mean, why do we see these people leaving the country and going outside to benefit other countries and help in other countries reform and development? If they can't help their country, there's a problem. So I think this problem needs to be addressed, and everybody says they're going to be addressing this problem. Nothing's been done about it.
That's the problem with the government, really, since early 60s. The laws that people are subject to are not remunerable for people enough. This is first. And in the same time, there is no accountability. Nobody, you can say this, are responsible for this bad deeds or these kind of things. Let me explain it to you in a word that here there is a row of people. Whenever you reach certain age, you have to be so and so. There is no advantage for the good worker. There is no advantage for anything that you can do. That's why you go abroad and be a successful person.
Indeed.
And still the same rules and laws applied until the moment.
So, sir, are you optimistic here? Are you optimistic?
Optimistic.
By nature, yes. By nature.
Optimistic, yes. But it will take a long time. Much more than the ordinary man may expect.
The ordinary man?
Yes, ordinary people.
Well, I hope my son will get the chance when he goes to see that change.
Probably your grandson, yes.
I hope so.
Yes.
Dr. Fouad Shaker, former Secretary General of the Union Arab Banks and the member of the Economic Egyptian Council. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
And with that, our dear viewers, we come to the end of our first segment of The Breakfast Show. So stay tuned, and we'll be back with our second segment for today's show.